Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. I'm assuming that I am live. I clicked the button, but the YouTube preview is not caught up yet, so I'm just going to jump straight in, and hopefully everything will turn out okay. If you have any problems with the audio or any comments about what's going on in the stream, just post it to the chat on the YouTube channel, and I will go ahead and take care of it for you. This is the first time for me, so hopefully everything will go fine and I can get everything straightened out. Now, today, on Saturday, we've got going the King of Maps tournament. This weekend, it is Cyrtus Major. That is the map. It is the 3 versus 3 version. And this is going to be one of the high-end matches. This is Sibelius versus Mad Mozart. Ignore the 1400 ranking. That is a false number. And these guys are taking Aeon on the left versus Seraphim on the right. This is a knockout tournament, so once you're gone, you're gone, if I'm not totally mistaken. Let's go ahead and bump the speed up back up to normal here, and we will get over with this game. It's about 15 minutes long, and then we're going to go to the Q&A session. I've got Shio, who's going to talk to us about client and network improvements and the things that are going on with the server, and then pretty much just answer any of your questions that you might have. So, Obfuscation has not decided exactly what he's doing yet. He's going to go first land. No early bombers. We've got 2 P-gens claiming 2 mass extractors, and then going for early hydro, judging by this move order over here. Mad Mozart on the other side looks like he's doing just about exactly the same thing. I would guess that both of these guys are going to go second air, because this is a decently sized map with a whole lot of drop potential in 1 versus 1, because you have these expansions that are just way out to the sides. So hopefully we'll get to see a bit of action around the outside edges. Gonna bump up the speed just a hair more. Yes, we've got the hydrocarbon going down, second air, and a buttload of power spam, because this map has a ton of reclaim. All of these little rocks out here, they're worth a deceptively large amount of mass. And then over on the other side, Mad Mozart's throwing down second air, an equally large power spam, but it looks like he is going very aggressive land. He's going to drop 2 land factories from the move order here. That is going to allow him to build on the outside edge without walking all the way around to give him a little jump start. This guy is Sibelius. He is renamed to Obfuscation. This is his second account. He hasn't played enough games to get his rank back up yet. I'm just going to call him Obfuscation because that's kind of... his name is Obfuscated. He is going to throw up a 2 land factory build there as well. So we've got standard expansion running all around the outside edges, throwing land factories down as they go, because you want to have your build power near the expansion that you're guarding so that you can respond more quickly. This is looking like an exact mirror build. You've got a bomber out here, followed by an air scout that's going to look around for things to kill. I think that bomber has... it's not going to bother with the tank there. Got interceptors coming from Mad Mozart. There's a handy-dandy little scout running all the way around the outside edge. Remember that Seraphim does have the Selin, which is kind of a halfway point between a lab and a scout. It is not as good as a lab, but it has a much stronger gun than most of the scouts do. Not going to be much use versus that Aurora, but it is going to camp out there and provide some radar coverage. And successful bomb. We had 2 engineers killed here, some damage to the power, so he lost the power grid. And also the expanding engineer for that mass extractor. So that was definitely a bomber that was well worth the mass and the micro time. That's going to slow down Mad Mozart quite a bit. Then we've got a flare that has managed to bypass this tank and survive with 6 health. He's going to camp out in this expansion and snag an engineer. There it is right there. The unlucky guy that's going to get hit if that is not taken care of. There is a scout on it. So hopefully it will be spotted. Got a tank moving in here. As we've discussed on multiple occasions, the Auroras have extremely long range, but not much health. We got 140 health versus 280 health, literally half. So if these tanks are able to close in, theoretically, 3 tanks will kill 2 Auroras if the range is the same, if the Auroras don't have radar. The Aurora has a shorter vision radius than it has attack radius, and I need to mute my YouTube feed because it is coming back through. Alright, that will stop in just a minute. Something to do next time. Alrighty. This map has a ton of reclaim in the center, and actually I just now noticed the 3 versus 3 version does not have the lines of point defense around the outside edges. It only has 2, one here and one here, and a little bit less mass as well. No T3 P-gens and no shield generators. So there's still a bit of mass to be had. It would be nice to claim that, but it looks like Mad Mozart is the only one making a serious move on it. Got quite a few combat units and his ACU towards the middle, whereas Obfuscation, he's headed that way now. Probably scouted out where the ACU is, and he's rising to meet the challenge. The land spam looks quite a bit stronger from yellow. Take a count on the factories here. We've got 11 for Mad Mozart. Really far less for Obfuscation. Mad Mozart is spamming them up rather quickly. We got 9 with a 10th on the way for Obfuscation. Obfuscation did manage to grab this one over here. Technically that is a right side mass extractor point. The land control is definitely favoring yellow at the moment. Mad Mozart dipping into that mass, and you can see his reclaim counter going up rather rapidly. He's at 4K as opposed to 3,800 for Obfuscation. He's a full 1,000 ahead now. That is going to give him a substantial boost, rolling these factories as hard as they can go. He has now got a huge advantage in build power, and he's got the mass to feed it. So Obfuscation, he's going to start falling back here. He sees that there's more units in the north, and Mad Mozart has the stronger tanks. When there's a narrow place like this where the tanks are going to have a harder time kiting. But we do have a raiding party coming in. The ever vital Land Scout is going to get sniped off by that tank. That's going to weaken the Auroras just a little bit in the face of the enemy tanks, but there's more than enough Auroras here to take care of that one and then start demolishing all of these mass extractors. That is going to be a hard hit to Mozart, losing that entire expansion. He really hasn't gotten that thing locked down the entire game, and Obfuscation has done a very good job of tightening his grip on the southern half. He's pulling 49 mass to 31 per tick on Mad Mozart. Honestly, I was not expecting how badly this would go for Mozart. Mozart not reacting as well as he could in a couple of situations, but I'm not going to hate on him too much because he is a far better player than I am. We've got a radar system going up here, followed by a point defense, something to fall back to. The point defense is extremely strong versus Auroras because of the Aurora's low health. As long as the ASCU can land some good shots, overcharge what artillery may be there in clumps, if he can defend that point defense can pretty much kill a near infinite amount of Auroras. And after the expansion is dead, this raiding party is finally going to get killed off. Looks like Mad Mozart has at least an equal amount of air, if not a couple of more interceptors. Aeon not utilizing the air strength that they have. We've got another air factory going up here. T2 land. Going to start rolling out some T2 units. Looks like an Obsidian is first in line. Hopefully Ilshivas will be here soon for Mad Mozart. Ilshivas are going to be the strong point for Mad Mozart. Got to use them to his advantage before Aeon can get to T3 if the game lasts that long. Ilshivas are basically walking T1 point defense, and they are amazing. Here comes the artillery, here comes the Auroras. Point defense is going to start ripping through those ranks. Artillery is going to find the target, and Aeon artillery is brutally effective at taking out single targets. They're not going to be able to stick around long enough to finish it off, but the Aeon, they have the highest fire rate, the lowest area of effect, and the highest damage, a combination of which makes it great for killing buildings and sniping single structures, but they really suck at killing units. not a group, not an artillery that you want to build huge amounts of and use as a combat unit. It just does not work as well. Zuis or Medusas are a much better choice. I am a huge fan of the Medusa. Alright, we've got Obfuscation cleaning up a handful of tanks down here in the bottom. Still no raiding or anything down here. This is a prime target for drops. You can slip a drop in here. There's no tanks anywhere close. We've got a single tank and 2 artillery over here. You get a drop, throw down 2 or 3 land factories, and just plow this whole expansion under before the enemy could do much of anything. And that would be a tremendous boon. Anytime you can knock your opponent off balance, that is a good thing. Looks like Mad Mozart has regained a little bit of ground, and he's teched up somewhat. He's got 48 mass income, but Obfuscation is just tearing it up as far as that's concerned. He's got 74, 67, Reclaim screwing with it a little bit. 67, 62, I'm going to say 65-ish average income. He has got to have, there's the T2 power coming online. We've got a T2 air factory moving to gunships. If yellow can secure air control, which I think he just did with these, there's 1 swift wind and a handful of interceptors left over. If he can secure the air, he can use these gunships to raid and tear things up. Mad Mozart making a push right here. Is he upgraded? I don't know, don't think so. No, he's not. No upgrades on that thing. It's a T1 ACU making a push in. Not sure what he's thinking here. He's going to get pinched between this group of units and these point defense, pulling his ACU back. He's got a gunship on his ACU. This is never a good thing. No anti-air. His closest factory is this one, all the way back here. He's got a T1 ACU, so no rapid building anti-air for himself. He's building anti-air in the mid. He's going to run his ACU back. I think he has enough health to weather a single gunship. Problem is, here's number 2. And yes, he was able to bring enough tanks to the front to block off access. So I think his ACU is going to be fine, at least for the moment. My concern would be Mercies. He could have easily been Mercy right there. Obfuscation could have taken the game in a matter of seconds if he built 2 or 3 Mercies instead of all of these Tech 2 gunships. That was not an extremely wise decision. But it is what it is. Can't go back now. He's got the T1 anti-air, is safe at least for the moment, but not with an extremely healthy ACU. The gunships are just going to keep pouring out. Obfuscation has complete and total air domination, and he's free to use those gunships pretty much however he wants to. Mozart does not even have a T2 factory to push. Ah, there it is. Just as I was saying it, I noticed it. There's flat coming up. Oh, back defense. Brink, you need to look at the unit before you open your mouth. That is the proper order of things. Rushing straight for T3 land. I don't know how good of an idea that is. As I was saying about the Ilshivas are amazing. Seraphim T3 is not that great. And we've already got T3 land online from Obfuscation. The eco is actually looking quite a bit closer. Obfuscation only pulling 55 mass per tick. Mad Mozart is at 47. These Harbies are going to pose a serious problem for him, and Authams are not going to be that great on this map. The terrain is pretty unlevel, and Authams have a hard time functioning properly in situations like this. We've got gunships in the back. A few flak and a couple of Ilshivas would have made a huge difference in this. I know there's a small handful of Ilshis at the front, but honestly I would have kept building Ilshis. And, of course, the mobile flak. Right now I'm sure he's regretting not having. Idle T3 factory, 1 mobile SAM would take care of that problem permanently. Obfuscation pulling an upgrade. -7, that is T2. And continuing to roll out the Harbingers. Harby to the south, gunships to the north. I hate to say it, but Mad Mozart looks like he has been knocked out of commission. It's not looking good for him. He's got a Harby in his base right here. Artillery moving up from the south with this Harbinger. Harby can more than handle all the T1 units that are thrown at it as long as it doesn't walk into point defense. No! Walk it back. You got all these artillery here. Use the artillery to take out the point defense first and then go in. Another point defense there. And the Otham is out. Completely missing the Harbinger, which is going to proceed to run around the back of the base, and there's the boom! That was... that was a Control K. He's messaging here, GG, it's getting hard to concentrate now. I really don't blame him. That is the domination of the map that allows you to win games. Obfuscation spread out better and more quickly. He had that early T1 bomber that killed off Mad Mozart's expansion. And he, in general, just did a better job of commanding resources, pushing units where they were needed. And that was a very well-timed set of upgrades as opposed to Mad Mozart falling short on his unit count and what units that he needed. And he ended up with a T3 land factory that he really didn't even use. So, that was a game out of the Sirtis Major King of Maps tournament that is running through today. It's already started, so unfortunately I think it is too late to sign up, but there is a King of Maps tourney every Saturday for the next few weeks. So if you tune in to the forum, you can hit up the tournament section and find out which map is next week. I should have looked it up. I'm not entirely sure. And practice on the map. When next Saturday rolls around, you can compete for a nice shiny avatar of either King of Maps or Prince of Maps, depending on your rank. And that is pretty much the only way to get an avatar around here. Gotta earn it. I get that question all the time. How do I get avatars? And there's your answer. Alrighty then. So moving on to other stuff. I said that we were going to do a Q&A session today, and be thinking about your questions. This is literally open to anything. You can ask me questions about my personal life, things that I do outside of YouTube. You can ask about anything to do with FAF or Supreme Commander in general, strategy, noob questions that you have, questions about the proper uses of units, anything like that. Think about your questions. And right now, I am going to ping Shio and see if he's ready to come on. He said that he would come on and talk with us about stuff that they're doing with the client right now. People have been saying forever that... well, let me get him in the channel so he can hear what I'm saying. Hey, Shio, you there?
Yes, hello.
Hey. Let me double check my volume feed real quick. Say something.
Hello?
Yep,
testing.
Looks good. Alright, so, basically, I just wanted to let everybody have a chance to ask any questions that they had and just give a general update, because forever people have been talking about, oh, we're working on the lobby, and we're working on the lobby, and for the most part, it's background stuff that not a lot of people are seeing happening. And I was just going to give you a chance to tell everybody, just kind of in a nutshell, what exactly y'all are looking to improve and optimize, and what is going to happen once this patch is released. Like, what are we going to see as far as improvement?
Yeah, as far as late as today, Visionic already had a talk with me about, well, we need to get something out because there are some very obvious bugs in the current release.
Are we talking about the client implementation or the balance of the game?
Right now, we're just talking about the in-game lobby. That is what you see when you join a game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the first thing that the game shows. It has a couple of very known bugs by now. For one, it doesn't like it when observers have the same color as some of the players that are already in the list.
Yes.
So we're working on right now, next to the network update that I'll get back to in just a minute, a hotfix for the in-game lobby. Oh, Damon says that I'm too loud.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm adjusting his mic.
All right. Let me know if this is better. I can adjust my end too.
I killed the volume in OBS. Fine.
All right. All right then. So we're working on a hotfix for the in-game lobby that should fix the most obvious bugs, and we will be releasing this. If Visionic gets back tonight, then tonight after a few hours, or tomorrow. We have the fixes ready for it.
Fantastic. So hopefully less of the the lobby seizing up and having to either rehost or a bunch of people rejoin and all that.
Well, it will probably not fix these issues, no, because this is the reason why we've been postponing and working on behind the scenes stuff all this time. But it will mitigate some of the most visible bugs. Like when you get kicked, you don't get a message that you were kicked. You just time out to everyone.
Oh, okay. Alrighty then. I know that there is also rumors flying around of a network update. What is coming down the pipe as far as network stuff?
Right. As far as the networking update goes, I wrote an update about this on the What's New page. I'll link it in chat.
Okay.
Okay, turns out you can't link it.
No, but
It does not allow me. Okay, I sent you the link.
Gotcha.
If you want to read details, that's the post. But to go over quickly, what we're doing is that we're reworking how the server initiates connections between players. Right now, it works based on a timeout and relies on the players telling the server that they were connected to each other. And this doesn't always work. For instance, when you join and your game is very slow to start up, it's also slow to tell our server that you connected to anyone else. So our server is too fast and kind of just tells your game to connect to other players through the proxy. And this is where problems start happening. So what we're doing is we're changing it so the server tests connections between peers before it tells them to connect. And when it tells them to connect, it knows beforehand that the connection will work.
Okay.
So we should see less of the players hanging, trying to connect. They will either connect or they will get proxied faster from now on.
I understand. I've actually noticed that because there's some situations where I'll get hung in the trying to connect phase or like not actually in the client, but entering it for like 8 or 9 or 10 seconds.
Yeah, it causes a lot of, yes, some weird states from the game.
Okay. Well,
so that's the main thing about this, and it takes a while because networking programming is hard, and we have several different protocols to deal with. GPG themselves actually did a pretty good job of designing the in-game connection protocol. So we luckily have stuff that is well written to work with.
One other thing that I was going to ask about specifically, I had heard rumors from a couple of people that had not gotten a solid idea of it. Is it true that y'all are working on, with the proxy and the way the server handles things, working on a way to make it more easy to reestablish connections when someone has a disconnect? Because I know that's one of the problems that people have. There's certain cases where people will have a little bit of network lag and it'll disconnect and it will not reconnect to everyone else, and that kills a lot of games.
Yeah, so currently one of the things that causes disconnects during games is when some person's ISP makes him change his public IP, and the game cannot currently recover from this.
Yes.
This network update that we're going to do soon, and is what we're working on right now, does not cover this case. It requires an update to the client that you will use, which also chats, the one you speak in Aeolus with.
Yes.
We're gonna make an update to that one at a later time that will make reconnections after IP changes possible. Yes. But it's not part of this network update.
Yes, I understand. There's several updates that have to come down the line that are not directly related to each other.
Yes.
Steps in a program.
We have quite a big pipeline at this point. We also have, it's a little bit further in the future, but we also have a new patcher update that should eliminate the desync problems you have when you watch old replays. For the most part.
That is great.
And the issue that Yes. Yes, that will be good.
There's been several games that people have complained about recently. So like, we had such an epic game and we wanted to send it to you to cast, and replay was desynced.
Well, there can still be other reasons for the replay desyncing, and also part of that is due to networking mishaps.
Well, it sounds like
Also to be addressed in future updates.
yeah, sounds like there is a game plan at work. I just know that it's good to get it stated out in the open, because a lot of times when you have a bunch of different sources, some of them being GitHub, some of them being word of mouth from different people, it's kind of hard to get a good idea of the big picture of where everything's headed. So pretty much where we're at now, if I can summarize, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but the summary is right now you are working on the server
Hotfix.
directly, and
Well,
then, or not the server, the client hotfix, and then
yes.
y'all are working on the server and then networking and then moving on to other projects after that. But right now you're basically working on the behind the scenes functionality of the game, cleaning up all of the glitches that we're having, desync, network problems, just trying to straighten out and optimize the user experience, what you see in the client.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things we want to get straight for FAF as a whole project. We want it to be a flawless user experience where you don't get random events like this happening. So part of this goal is also to make it easier to report when errors do happen. So one of the things that we're going to have for the next client update is it'll be really easy to report whenever something bad happens. There is just going to be a button, or it may potentially do it automatically. Hey, upload my logs. So they know what happened.
Good deal.
Because a big part of the issue right now is that when players experience, for instance, game crashes, we don't automatically know about it. We have to rely on players telling us, and we don't get a lot of reports. So that's why in my last development update, I urged everyone to report game crashes and desync issues and any other issues, and I would like to thank everyone who did. But we would like that to just happen automatically. Right, so
man. Well, I appreciate the info greatly. I think some of that's a little bit of dry details. I know there's some people who get it and some people who don't, but rest assured there are several people working on FAF, and it is only going to get better from here. So I really appreciate all the information that you gave to us, man.
You're welcome. If there's anything I should explain in non-technical language, feel free to
I think that's
inquire.
a pretty good overview. If there's anybody who wants more detailed descriptions, you can ask. I can get you the GitHub link so you can actually read the feed on updates. And then if you have any other questions, you can message people on there, just to ask the actual coders, because they're going to know about more than I do. And I think for the purposes of this stream, more technical explanations is not really going to be very.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that I'll be doing another development update tomorrow. That is, almost tomorrow for me, because it's half after midnight here in Denmark. But yeah, tomorrow, as in Monday, I will be posting another development update.
All right,
detailing
man.
what happened in the hotfix that we're going to release tomorrow, and future the network update.
All right. Well, we will see you around. If not in game, definitely in lobby.
Indeed. Thanks.
All right. Bye. Alrighty, guys. That was just a quick update on what's going on in FAF in general. If you have any more specific questions, you can ask me after the cast, or you can ask Shio, or go to the GitHub for FAF. It is pretty readily available. Someone can feed you a link if you need it. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to just pick a game at random. Let me pick something off of the live games. Try to find something different than Cyrodius. And we're just going to move on to your questions. Anything that you've been curious about. I've put out several tutorials recently for unit tutorials, and I did a beginning game tutorial way back. And just anything in general that you're curious about FAF. It can be anything. just ask away and we will try to address it. I'm going to pick up this game. This is a relatively high ranking game on Lost Mesmerizing Paradise. Hopefully this will be a good one to let play in the background. And we're off. Let me just list off who's in this one so you know who goes with which color, because I know the lettering is a little hard to read up there. Orange is VMC, and we've got Black Wolf taking blue for Seraphim, the Claw as Cybran in light purple. Dark purple is the Egg Roll, also taking Cybran. Then on the northern side, we've got Momochila taking Seraphim. Purgatory is the red, taking Aeon. Then we've got Tech 9 as gray Seraphim. And in the back, Keezer as pink Aeon. We're just going to kind of let this game play in the background, and anything you have a question about, you can post in the chat. And I'm going to start off with the discussion going right now. T3 land is possibly OP. I would say that is not... Balance has gotten a bit strange recently. I was actually discussing this with a player the other day. The T3 has not necessarily gotten stronger, but the engineer mod, which gave us the support factories, which I do dearly love. I love having the extra build power that provides, but it makes T3 units much more easy to spam. So you have huge numbers of T3 units. And that used to not be a big deal because T3 versus T4, the build time difference was such that by the time you could get a huge group of T3s, there would already be a T4 in your base. And that's simply not the case anymore. So I think that it can possibly be considered OP in the current balance, but it's iffy. If you nerf it too much, it's going to be so far, or it's going to be relatively comparable to T2. It's not going to be a huge step up. And if you make T4s too strong, if you haven't moved to T3 land, it's going to be way too difficult to deal with the T4s. It's a bit tricky and it's an odd situation. But I would tend to agree, mainly the Percival, but possibly also the Brick. I would say the Percival more because you also have ready access to shields to walk with your Percivals, adding even more cheap health. Percivals may be slightly OP. As far as dealing with Percivals, if you're versus a UEF opponent, I would suggest taking air control as early and hard as you can and playing aggressively. UEF is a faction that gets stronger as it gets later in the game. So if you can manage to get air control, turn out some early gunships to raid, reduce his eco so he can't build so many Percivals, and then make excellent use of your T4s. Don't send in lone T4s versus Percys. Group up, shield, support units. If you have a Monkey Lord, say, as Cybran, if you enter from a diagonal angle instead of hitting a face of Percivals, if you engage one or two at a time from the end of the line instead of hitting all of them at once, the Monkey Lord can actually take out a pretty large number of Percivals if you micro it well. Ryan's asking, how often does it happen that someone doesn't have T3 land by the time they're facing a T4? Typically, this is going to happen in a rush situation, and I would say that it would happen much more readily in a team game, where if you don't have adequate scouting and you have two people on a team working together, they can throw out a Monkey Lord very quickly. We're talking 12 to 14 minutes here. And at 12 to 14 minutes, if you have a T3 factory, you're not going to have a whole lot of T3 units. And of course, you can argue that when you're in that situation, all you need to do is plant some overcharges. I would totally agree with, but most of the time when you see a T4, the initial reaction is to panic and scatter. So you just got to group up and deal with it. My favorite faction varies between Cybran and UEF. I love Cybran because at my heart, in my soul, at my core, I am a troll. above all else. And Cybran just has so many options for trolling. You have stealth strat bombers. You have the telemazer. You have fire beetles. You have really, really fast mantis. You have the borderline OP Viper at T2 that you can just enrage people with. There's just so many options that you have to... it's just hilarious, and I love to do that. Second favorite is the UEF, just because they're tanky. Sometimes I like playing defensive. I do like a point defense creep every now and again, even though I recommend that I recommend not to do that in my casts. It is kind of a do as I say, not as I do type thing. It can be fun if you're not in a serious game. If you're in a serious game, do not turtle. Turtling is not good in serious games. But in team games where you're out for fun, I do like a UEF turtle. Do I think that the Eye of Rian is OP? No, I do not. The Eye of Rian is a very good tool that not enough people use. I want to know how to tell a group of bombers to queue multiple attacks evenly distributed against a block of land units so that you can get carpet bombing without heavy micro. That is the Shift G command. You select some units, and then let's say you select all of these artillery, and then with the shift key you would queue attacks like every other PGen, and then you press G with shift held down, and what that does is instead of all of the artillery attacking each power generator in sequence, they're each going to take a power generator and shoot at it all at the same time. It just splits the attack order up. And that actually has a lot of uses. It also splits move orders and anything else. So if you place a move order currently, all of your units will go there and then group up in formation. But if you place a move order and then press G with shift held down, they will all clump to that location without bothering with formation, which in some cases will actually get them there faster because they're not trying to coordinate with each other. They just take the shortest possible route directly to that spot, each unit acting as if it was alone. Now, if you're walking through a choke point, that's going to cause... it's going to really screw with the pathfinding, but if you're in a large open area and you have like 200 units and you want to move them over here, Shift G is going to get them to that location faster than a standard move. Alright, someone up above mentioned SACUs. Yeah, they're OP. They're the only unit in the game currently that I can definitely say are overpowered, especially the UEF Rambo comms. If you're going to be in an extended fight, build UEF Rambo comms and they kill just about everything else mass for mass. So, yeah, that's a problem. I think they have something like 1k DPS on 2 area of effect with, like 50,000 total health with their shield. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Are we going to see micro-based tutorials? I plan to do micro-based tutorials at some point. I don't know when that point will be now that I'm doing Tutorial Tuesdays. I'm forcing myself into a schedule so that I turn casts out and I don't have an excuse to slack off. They will pop up at some point, but I'm not sure when that will be. Let's see. Scrolling up for a minute here, looking through everything that was said. Yes, Speed talking about his stuff. Speed has an excellent channel if you're looking for specific build orders for specific maps. And he has a lot of good information over there on with his tutorials. So that is definitely a channel that you can check out if you're looking for more in-depth, specific tutorials. I'm shooting more for... My casts are more for the entertainment side of things, and the tutorials that I do are pretty broad-based over the game. Alrighty. This game is actually turning out pretty well. It's not often on Mesmerizing Paradise that you see this large of a T1 engagement. Like, typically people turtle up here. You're going to see Navy around the outside edges that force a stall at the choke point here. Then everybody techs up. You see anything from nukes to T3 already, but here we are at 9 minutes. We actually have a huge amount of T1 spam utilizing these hover units. We got Auroras and Zuis just duking it out over the map. And it's actually a pretty cool game flow. I've not seen one take place like this on Mesmerizing Paradise. We've got drops out here. Actually, 2 players from the same team dropping the islands on this side and then securing the southern side as well. I think left side is taking a bit of an advantage early, and then we've got hoplites out here to help deal with some of these Auroras coming in. Alright, and again, anybody who has any kind of question, whether it be personal or strategy related, hit up the chat and ask me. Someone's asking, what is my favorite game ender? I like the Scathus, but I don't often get to build one. Tell you what, I generally don't build game enders, but let me give you a specific instance where I found it hilarious. I was playing a thermo game, and I built 4 emissaries, which are the Aeon artillery. You can put them on hold fire and pre-target something so that they all 4 fire a shot at the same time, which impacts at the same time. And you can one-shot kill an ACU with that, which is absolutely hysterical. Artie can be used to pretty funny effect. You know what? Scratch that. I do have a favorite game ender. Mass Novax. If you can get like 8 or 9 Novax up in the air, that is some funny crap. I don't care who you are. It is so hysterical because people will rage and rage. Again, I am a troll at heart. Okay, Justin is asking, is there a possibility for weather or natural disaster mods in the future? There is already one. There is a Phantom map. It is on Desert Arena, and I'm not sure if it is a Phantom mod or the map itself. It's been a long time since I played it, but it's Phantom Meteor Strike. And it is at random intervals, certain sections of the map will just be obliterated by a meteor shower. Now, it is possible to survive it, and shields will stop it, but I think what they did for that was basically spawn artillery shells that are falling on certain points. There are not actually mechanics in this game for weather. It's pretty much tampering with vision and fog. And you can see here they kind of added clouds where you can zoom in and go under the clouds, which is a really cool effect. This is the only map that I've ever seen it on. And kind of see the wisps over there. So I guess it's feasible, but nobody's ever implemented it. Meteors are on Bunny Roanoke. No, I'm certain that I saw it on Desert Arena. Maybe the map. I'm not sure. Okay. People rage harder if you abuse the Iwasa. I love the Iwasa. That's technically not a game ender, though, so I wasn't thinking about it. My favorite is the T4 Mercy move, where you instantaneously control K and Iwasa immediately after dropping its bomb, and both the bomb and the falling Iwasa hit the target, totaling out for 21,000 damage, which is enough to kill in one shot any ACU that does not have a personal shield. So that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Stefan, yes, less vision at night is possible. It's been done on a map before, but it is as annoying as all get out. And no, I don't like it. A game, it's kind of one of those gimmicks where it would be fun maybe for like 2 or 3 games, just to play to see how it went, but then you would end up hating it and going back to normal mode. That's one of the reasons that the standard FAF balance is the most played game mode. It is a clean-cut, well-represented cross-section of the RTS game. I mean, it has everything. It has the epic scale. It has a good amount of well-balanced units. It has everything there that you need and not a overbearing amount of fluff. And you can go play the mods like Black Ops and any of the other resource mods or anything like that. Rats ahoy! Killing off these mass extractors. But inevitably, people always come back to the standard version of FA. It is by far the most played version by most people. There's very few people that exclusively play mods. So when you want to make a mod like that, you kind of have to ask yourself, how much work is going to go into making a weather mod and how many people are actually going to use it? May not be worth it. X-Toxin, that is actually the closest I've seen to one that actually sounds like fun. Snowy maps with blizzards that make your radar screw up and units have a 50% range debuff. There was actually, there's going to be some of this stuff implemented into Galactic War. A lot of it had already been coded, but it wasn't implemented yet, and that project kind of got put on the back burner. And everybody always asks, is Galactic War coming back? Galactic Fear already here. It is. It's probably going to be about 4 to 6 months before active development starts on it again, but it is coming back. There's just other priorities that have to be taken care of first. The server, what happened with the server is there's a lot of sections on the server that are not well optimized. If I'm not totally mistaken, there was a fairly good memory leak, and just in general, it was not running like it was supposed to. So the server that FAF was on before was technically large enough to handle all of the people that use FAF plus a substantial amount more, but since the code wasn't optimized and it wasn't running well, we were having the server bogged down or just completely seize up with only like 500 or 600 people on. And Vision took the brute force solution. He bought 2 really super fast servers so that we can run the unoptimized code on them without seizing up, which is why FAF has not been down recently and has had really good functionality. And while it's running on the big fast servers, the development team is working on optimizing the server and client code. Once they get everything optimized and functioning well, we'll move back to a more reasonable server that doesn't cost, I think Vision said right now he's spending $700 a month just to run the servers for FAF. So huge thanks, huge props to him for doing that for the sake of this game. We're all loving his investment on that, but those servers are really expensive, not super sustainable over the long run. What do you think about carrier balance? They are good for production, but kind of underused because by the time you get to T3 Navy, you could have already had a T3 Air Factory and built a bunch of units. They're good when you're at T3 Navy and you've won your Navy and you want to shift to air production. I would rather build aircraft carriers than build a land-based air factory. One bit of speculation, I think that some of it has to do with impatience. Because with a heavily assisted air factory, if you have mass and storage and plenty of power, and you have 2 engineers on this factory, you can click on a strat bomber, and you will have a strat bomber like 5 seconds later. Whereas if you build 6 aircraft carriers, you have the same amount of build power, and I'm completely pulling these numbers out of thin air, so I don't know, but however many aircraft carriers it is, you'll have 4 or 5 or 6 aircraft carriers, and they build strat bombers at the same pace, but you don't see the strat bombers till, like a minute later, and all of the strap bombers pop out at once. And I think some of it has to do with just mentally people like an immediate response to their request, so they don't have the patience to sit around and wait for strap bombers to come out from the aircraft carriers. But honestly, aircraft carriers, as they currently are in the game, are fine. They're just mostly utilized for anti-air. And that is because for twice as much mass as a cruiser, you get almost the same anti-air capabilities and literally 10 times the health. They're just super tanky. So you need to build them in the later game to defend yourself against Solaces or massed gunships, whatever it may be. Alright, sorry, flipping around there for a second. Okay, moving on to other questions. Aeon and Seraphim have sniper bots and kiting to help balance, I think. Oh, this is in relation to another. Can someone add more stronger T3 land or Aeon and Seraphim? Isn't it better for balance between factions? Not entirely. Justin 2 hit the nail on the head there. The factions initially were not super well balanced, but one of the things that FAF did in their balance patches was made the sniper bots where they can fire while moving, but they have decreased accuracy. And then they changed the distribution of the damage and the fire rate so that the sniper bots did not overkill the Percivals by almost an entire shot's worth of damage. So even though the DPS didn't change and none of the stats specifically have changed for the unit, they're much more effective at dealing with T3, whether it be bricks or Percivals, than they were before. You just have to guard them with shields, build your Harbies, you need a front line. And the Aeon sniper is decidedly worse than the Seraphim sniper. But the Aeon T3 artillery fires on the move, so you can actually use Aeon T3 artillery in the T3 phase, like you would use T1 artillery in the T1 phase as a combat unit. So that's a very handy tool that you don't need to forget about. Basically, UEF and Cybran are brute force of strength factions at the T3 level. You build a bunch of heavy bots, you run over the enemy with them. With Aeon and Seraphim, you have to take the time to get creative. Sometimes, I'm not going to call people lazy, but people build an equal amount of the other T3 bots and just assume that it's going to work. And it doesn't. You have to think outside the box. You have to build a mixture of units, shields, assault tanks, Harbies, whatever, snipers, and use your T3 artillery. It can be overcome. It is a bit more difficult, but it can be overcome.
Strategic launch detected.
Aha! Someone has a nuke. Not been paying super close attention here. Nuke is traveling to... Where's my handy dandy shift key? Right there. That is so sad that GC is not going to get a chance to finish, and Purgatory is running directly into the nuke. No, little friend. Run the other way. You're walking even closer now. I think Purgatory's dead. Don't see any... Oh, there's nuke defense. Is it loaded? Nope. He's dead. So sad. Running away, but it's a bit too late, I think. Yup. Alright. Moving on to other things to discuss. Let's see. What is the point of loyalists? Loyalists are amazing. How dare you? How dare you say that they don't have a point? Loyalists have a couple of really cool abilities. Overall, they're fairly strong units. There's nothing wrong with building straight loyalists. They have reasonably good health, they have good DPS numbers, and they're pretty fast on their feet. So they're a good all-around unit. Throw in the fact that they have built-in TMD. They have a boomerang tac defense that returns missiles to their origin, so you can actually use them for cruiser defense and wipe out your opponent's navy. Cool trick. You'll hate it. And also, it has an EMP death weapon, which means that if you take a group of loyalists and you just run them straight into the enemy attacking force in front of your bricks, when they die, they'll stun all the enemy units, buying your bricks 2 or 3 or 4 seconds of free firepower. Depending on how many loyalists you have and in what order they die, you can basically continually stun the enemy forces by throwing loyalists at them. And the bricks just mop everything up and don't take any damage back. Basically a suicide unit. Additionally, they stun T4s, which is especially handy with the Galactic Colossus, because the Galactic Colossus will suck a loyalist up with its claw. It will instantly be stunned by the EMP death weapon, and now the GC just sits there for like a second and a half or 2 seconds without doing anything, and the bricks that you have there are free to fire at it, or you can run your ACU in with accompanying loyalists, and the GC will continually suck up loyalists, and you can just overcharge the GC to death with your ACU. Granted, you gotta have a lot of extra health, and a couple of shields next to your ACU will not hurt, but it is possible. I've seen it done. I was about to move on to the Titan, and people are already discussing it. Titans counter T1 spam. UEF is kind of a rush for T3 in a lot of cases, so if you build Titans, that will help you quell the T1 that is coming at you. Counter nuke. In general, though, once you get a critical mass of Percivals up, there's not going to really be a whole lot of point in building many Titans. They're a great rating unit, but honestly, T2 can match or beat them in most cases, mass for mass. But yes, do not desecrate the name of the Loyalists by implying that they may not have a point, because they are a great unit. Great. Okay, someone mentioned PA. Planetary Annihilation is a sad excuse for a game. It only has one faction. There's no variance of units. It has an incredibly difficult to manipulate UI. I could go down a whole laundry list of bad things about that game, which have been... That is a horse that has been dead for a long time, and I don't want to beat it anymore. Let's see. And I would agree. Yeah, what is the point of Titans? That is actually a valid point. Oh, man. Yeah, bricks do have the good rate of fire, so the loyalists are not absolutely necessary to the bricks, but they are an excellent complementary unit. And by the way, this is something that a lot of people don't realize. Bricks lose to Percivals mass for mass. Loyalists win versus Percivals mass for mass, as long as you have like 15 Percivals versus their mass in Loyalists, because you just basically run all of your Loyalists into the Percivals. Just play in a move order right in the middle of the group. And the more Loyalists the Percivals kill, the more it stuns the Percivals, and the DPS from the rest of the group of Loyalists will finish off the Percivals before the Percivals can kill all the Loyalists. It does work. It's just in larger numbers, because if there's not enough Loyalists where they're at that critical mass, once 3 or 4 of them are killed to stun the rest of the Percivals, there aren't enough Loyalists alive still to do the damage to take out the Percivals. And yes, someone crossed their fingers, Raptor Jesus, crossing his fingers for Ashes of the Singularity. The more I see of Ashes of the Singularity, the more I like it. I think it is going to be a worthy... It is a game that I'm definitely going to buy. I'm not going to say that it's going to be as good as FA. That it remains to be seen once the game releases. But what I do like is that they've not overhyped a beta. They're not falling into the publicity trap like PA did. They seem to have a really good product with a highly optimized engine that does good work. And they're displaying, instead of promising a hope and a dream, they actually have a functioning game, engine that can support 5,500 units on a large scale map at once right now, which bodes well for what they're going to be able to do with the game later. So I am tentatively raising my hopes for Ashes of the Singularity. I'm definitely not going to stop playing FA, and I'm definitely not going to stop casting FA, but when that game comes out, I'm going to play it, and hopefully it will be good. Alright, we're at the 1 hour mark. If anybody has real good questions, I'll stay on a few more minutes, but I'm thinking that this is about over with. What do I think about the recent complaints about the moderator team? That is a nasty topic. Not sure if I want to address that in a public cast. Okay, I'll say this. I think that with a moderation team, you have to remember that everyone, number one, everyone is human. We're not automated robots that carry out all of our decisions with the precision of an automated program and never make mistakes. And then number two, you need to realize that we are not in the chat all the time, and neither are you. Some people talk about unfairness, and some people are getting banned and other people aren't. Well, if we're not there to see it and no one screen caps it and sends it to us, we can't deal with it. So next time, screen cap it and send it to us, and we'll deal with it. I love the T1 spam at 28 minutes on this game. That is fantastic. And then the flip side of that is you're not in the chat all the time either. So a lot of the problem that we had was there were people who did not have the whole picture. They hadn't seen everything that had gone down. They didn't see the private messages. They didn't see the stack of pictures and replays and everything else that we have for these people that we're banning. And so they think it's an unjust ban, and they go on a crusade against the moderator team because they think there's some injustice done. And it just gets bad. It gets out of hand. People protest, and then the more people that get removed from chat for protesting, the worse the situation gets, and it's really a no-win situation for everybody involved. So hopefully everything was cleared up, questions were answered that you guys had, and we are we're working harder on definitely screenshotting and keeping adequate records. You may not see the records, but the moderator team has the records for anything that goes on, and we're taking care of it as best we can behind the scenes. So hopefully that answers the question. All right, pulling a couple of more things off the list here. What do I think about the avatars and Aeolus with the Council of Setons? I think they're pretty awesome. The owl is cool looking. I like my color. Can't speak for everybody else. I think Voodoo picked a really weird color, but that was his choice and he enjoys it, so that is his own problem. And let's see. Many FAF players say that APM is important for FAF. Is that true? That is an excellent question, and one that gets misunderstood a lot. Okay, let's compare. People are going to riot over this comparison. Let's compare Forged Alliance to StarCraft. In StarCraft, you hear about the 150 plus APM players where they spiked to like 400 APM. That is kind of false because it's counting orders as anytime you queue units in a factory, anytime you move things, move checkpoints, all that kind of stuff. And it's an artificially inflated number because StarCraft does not have repeating build queues. So a lot of times, a lot of the APM that is racked up in StarCraft is simply tabbing through your factories and adding units to the build queue, along with spamming move attack, move attack, move attack, move attack, because StarCraft units cannot fire while they're moving. So you have to move in between the firing cycles to reposition and then attack as soon as the cooldown time on your attack cycle is up. So all of that severely inflates the
Strategic
APM,
launch detected.
and you're not actually accomplishing a whole lot strategy-wise. It's simply click spam to feed your engine. Whereas Forged Alliance, with the repeating build queues, with the ability to move orders that are already placed on the ground, with the ability of units to fire as they move, just with those three things, you're cutting out 2/3 of the click spam in StarCraft. So you can accomplish, I mean, Voodoo only has an APM of like 36 or 40, and he is a 2,000 plus ranked, extremely good player. I would be terrified to go up against him, and I have the same APM that he does. I average 36 to 38 APM. And yes, there are people who average higher than that, and it can be argued that it may buy you a slight advantage, but overall in Supreme Commander, your strategy matters more than your micromanaged implementation to a certain degree. Yes, micromanaging does gain you benefits, but your overall plan is absolutely important and absolutely necessary. So don't worry about the APM counter. It's not a big deal. You can do just fine with low APM. I hate Lenny spam on a personal level. If you spam enough of it to classify as spam, I will remove you from chat, but that's just me personally. I don't like Lenny. It's useless space taken up by symbols that could contain, words and useful information. I'm saying that partially sarcastically. It's not a huge deal, but I'm not going to start using him. Okay. What's coming through now? Justin 2 referring to APM in reference to drops. Yes, that is one of the areas where you need more APM, is when you're focusing on two separate areas of the map. But again, you can pull off very effective drops and micromanage all of your units effectively with 40 to 45 APM, and you can be a pro level implementation. I mean, Voodoo's proven that. There's a lot of top players that don't have much APM at all. One more look over here for questions, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up. Is it good to build a Cybran T4 Arty against Navy spam? If you're losing
Strategic
Navy,
launch detected.
if you don't have enough build power to use all of your mass, then you can use T3 Engineers or ACU to build a Skathis with the extra eco that you have. I would not sacrifice my naval production for the sake of building a T4 Arty. Hopefully that answers your question. Have I played Homeworld Remastered? No, I have not. I did not play the original, and I did not play the remaster. Is there any way of doing a dual cast with people? Yes, there is. There is absolutely a way to do dual casts. But for a variety of reasons, people don't do it a whole lot. Part of that is that, well, let's just take me and Guile, for example. I proposed it to Guile. The problem is he's in Europe. I'm in America. Our time zones are in direct conflict, and on the days that both of us are casting, either I would have to get up at like 2 or 3 a.m., and I have to work the next day, or he would have to cast far late in the evening, and he has other stuff, family things going on, and is just not available to cast. So it's not feasible because of time zones. Stuff gets in the way, and it is a little bit difficult to be. It's a little difficult to implement, but it can be done. Yes, the dual cast is entirely feasible. Do. They're not always awkward. I did one with Morax. It was actually a whole lot of fun. And I think that if you dual cast on a regular basis, I think by the time you got to the third or fourth one, you would know each other and how your conversation patterns work, and you could probably have a whole lot of fun with it. I think the only reason it's awkward is because if you take two people who are used to casting by themselves and throw them together with each other, they end up interfering with each other for the first little bit anyway. Do you think that the game is accessible to new players with a common ranking limit on game? I think that the rank limits on games is an unavoidable thing. And I think it is better than the alternative of jumping into random games without knowing how people are ranked. If you remove the ranking system, you're going to end up with 2K players and complete noobs in the same game, and that's just a train wreck. And the separation of the ranks allows people to play with others generally their own level. I think it is completely accessible, but sometimes people don't realize that they can host their own games, so they spend all their time trying to join other people's games. And until you get 5 or 10 games under your belt, that 0 game counter is very scary. And there's some other issues that arise, but I think once people start hosting their own games, I've never heard of a problem after that. Typically, they host their own game, some people will join it. They'll have 4 or 5 games. They're happy for the night. They log out. When they log back in, their client updates, and now they have 4 or 5 games, and they'll have a rank. And even if you have 5 games and a negative 300 rank, the negative 300 rank is easier to get a game with than the 0 ranked 0 game. So just play your games and come into the general community. After 5 games or 10 games, you won't have a problem. So I think it's okay. Not really a better way to implement it at this point. My opinion on teleport. Teleport's fun. I love teleport, especially telemazer. It's not a super bad thing. It's pretty easy to see coming. If they have a ridiculous amount of power spammed up and they have chest upgrades for most factions, that obviously means that they probably have the teleporter, and you can defend against it pretty easily by either sticking your ACU in the water or building 2 or 3 T2 shields and some point defense. It is fairly easily denied. I'm not sure why there's no option to hide passworded games. I think probably because if you were to hide a passworded game, other people could not find it to click on it to enter the password. So it's easier just to throw them all into a general window than try to be picky about implementing some sort of invite system. If I could change one thing about the rating system, what would it be? I would change the people using the rating system. People who create second accounts, which the FAF policy is to ban people who manipulate their rank purposefully to stay low and to abuse lower ranked players. And we do actively do that when we can prove that someone is using a lower ranked game. But basically, I would change people so that they didn't have the desire to manipulate their rank to a certain level. If everybody just played the game, don't worry about mods, don't worry about if you can unrank the game, if you can't unrank the game, don't worry about ladder versus globe or anything. If you just play the freaking game and let your rank fall where it may, it will eventually even out and you will have a good, accurate representation of your skill level in relation to the community. It is a peer-reviewed rating system. It's not a cumulative rating system. So it is a pretty good representation of your actual skill level. And I think it works as implemented. The only things wrong with it are the people tampering with it. And as I said before, Galactic War is going to be coming back. No definite release date, but it is coming back. It is not gone for good. How does one protect a nuke defense against a teleport SACU? Gets me in Phantom every time. If you surround the SMD with point defense and walls, if the SACU teleports on top of walls, I think it automatically dies, which may or may not kill your SMD. Basically, you need to build multiple SMD with multiple shields and mini banks of point defense. That way, if one dies, you can rely on the others while you rebuild that one. That is my suggestion. Build more. If you're relying on a single SMD with 3 anti-nukes loaded in it versus 3 other players with nukes, you're doing it wrong. X-Toxin. It does not have a release date because there's necessary client patches that have to come first. Once the necessary client and server patches have been done, then we will start again on development on further balance patches and the Galactic Fear feature. Okay, I'm going to close it out there. We got an hour and 15 minutes, and if you have more questions, tune in next week. I'm going to do this again next week. Going to cast a short game at the beginning, and then we'll watch another game, do Q&A. At some point, I will be inviting other people to talk to. And if you have recommendations on that or people you want me to try to acquire, you could recommend them. But that is going to wrap it up for this cast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. That answered some people's questions and a couple of reasonably good games there to watch. I will see you guys in the next cast. Again, moving back to a 3-cast schedule. It's going to be Tutorial Tuesdays and then 2 game casts and then a live cast on Saturday. So plenty of material for you guys to watch. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I will see you in the next one.